Okay, very good morning to all of you. I, Ketki Balde, welcome you all to the D4 session 1 of 1 week capacity building program on Education 4.0. We are pleased to have Dr. Megha Trivedi as a keynote speaker in today's session. Ma'am is going to address on the topic innovation in teaching learning. Before starting the session, I would like to give a brief introduction about our guest. Dr. Megha Trivedi, currently working as an associate professor and head of computer engineering at VCET Mumbai. She has a more than 2 decades of experience in the teaching field. She is PhD from IIT Bombay and IQAC and NEC coordinator, and also a coordinator of E-Yantra Robotics Laboratory set up with the support of IIT Bombay. She has coordinated several STTPs and published various papers in international and national journals and conferences. Thank you, madam. Now I would invite our speaker to start her session.
So thank you for the introduction. And at an onset, I would like to thank the IEEE section and Thakur College for giving me an opportunity to deliver this session in front of such an august gathering. Let me just share my screen. Can you just confirm my screen is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. So very good morning to all the participants here. And today we are here to discuss about innovation and creativity in teaching learning. In some or other way, we all are practicing these in our daily teaching. However, I have made an attempt to comprehend all the methodologies which have come across into one presentation. I hope I'll do the justice to the topic that has been assigned to me today, that is innovation and creativity in teaching learning. Today I'll be discussing about three things, some pedagogies, some methodologies, and some tools which could incorporate, when incorporated in our teaching learning, could make our teaching more effective for the students. So before we begin with the discussion, let us just create a little environment to have a good discussion on creativity and innovation in teaching learning. So let us see a scenario of a classroom. So this is one classroom scenario. I would just request you to analyze this picture and identify what does this picture convey about the classroom that we see. You could write it in the chat box. Yeah, let us have this session to be interactive. So yeah, so Anvita ma'am says that there's no control in the class. Yes. You could also unmute and say, or otherwise you could put it in the chat box. So in the absence of teacher, all the students, unfortunately, I think that the teacher is present here and still the scenario is this. Anyways, but even in presence of teacher, the students are having a good fun time. Yeah. What other observations can we make? What observations can we make from this particular picture? Of course, it is not our classroom. ये तो किसी और का classroom है, but let us make some observations from this. So what does this classroom convey? Students are not attentive, yeah. Probably because they are bored to listen to the teacher. Students are distracted. Yeah, you can see someone talking on the phone. Some students are chatting amongst themselves. Some students are sleeping. Some are playing. So it seems to be a very distractive classroom. Anything else? Probably the communication part. What kind of communication might be going on? No specific goal, okay. And it seems to be a very boring class. Yeah. Mess. What about communication that is there between the teacher and the students? What kind of communication is there? It is unidirectional, one-way communication, yes.
Yeah, teacher is facing back and
Yeah, absolutely.
no control over class, no communication with the class.
Absolutely correct. So it seems to be a one-way communication. The teacher is teaching, the students are not willing to learn. So this is scenario of an ordinary classroom. Of course, as I said, I'm in front of a gathering of teachers who are very innovative and creative in by their own nature. And therefore, it's not our classroom, and neither we want our classrooms to be of this kind, right? Because we all are enthusiastic about our teaching, and therefore we would never have this scenario here. Let us look at another classroom scenario. Yeah, this is another classroom, which we want probably to be our classroom. So what does this picture convey? What does this picture convey?
All students are engrossed in learning or what our teacher is communicating with them.
Yeah, absolutely correct. So they are connected to the teacher, and look at their faces, their hands raised. What does this picture convey more? One thing is, as ma'am said, they are all connected to the teacher well. The students are responding. Yeah, they are actively learning. Beauty ma'am says. Jyoti ma'am says the students are responding. Yes. Yes. What else? Are they enthusiastic? They seem to be enthusiastic to learn, right? A teacher is in the class. Prachi ma'am is asking a question if teacher is in the class. Yes, teacher is of course there in the class because the students have raised the hand, and probably that is they are responding to the question that the teacher has asked. The class of Anvita ma'am says the class is very enthusiastic. Yes, they are actively involved in learning, and so this is how we want our classrooms to be, right? Right? Does it teacher took the photograph? Yeah, teacher has taken. Balkrishna sir says teacher is taking photographs, so the teacher is not available in the picture. So this is how we want our classroom to be. Yes. Does everyone agree to me? This is how what scenario we want to see in our classrooms. Yes. Yes or no? Can I get some response?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So Jyoti ma'am says yes. Beauty ma'am says yes. Chandrakishori ma'am says yes. Kamini ma'am says yes. Trupti ma'am says, Shyam Mohan sir says yes. Archana ma'am says yes. So this is how we want our classroom to be. Now let us take up actually before coming to the discussion, let us take up a small exercise. Let us all recall, yes, thank you Sangeeta ma'am, Archana ma'am for responding. Let us do a small exercise of recalling our school days or our college days and recall of a teacher whom we used to like very much. है ना, एंड क्योंकि टीचर अच्छा लगता था उसके सब्जेक्ट पढ़ने भी बहुत अच्छा लगता था, या वाइस वर्सा वो सब्जेक्ट भी अच्छा लगता था इसलिए टीचर अच्छा लगता था. तो जस्ट ट्राई टू रिकॉल आवर स्कूल कॉलेज डेज एंड try to identify or recall the attributes or parameters on basis of which you used to love a teacher, और इतना अच्छा लगता है कि today also we remember the teacher for that particular characteristics. So let us do this exercise with the help of a tool. uh, Let me just stop the presentation for a while. Yeah, and let us use a tool called as mind map. Now this is one particular application which is a web-based application, that is lucid chart, and it has got a number of templates. We are going to discuss about this shortly, but this is one, these are all templates that are available, and one of the template available in it is called as a mind map. And we're going to see today what is a mind map. But using this tool, we're going to identify those properties or those things for which we remember our teacher even today. So this is my teacher whom I recall even today for some good reasons. And let us now identify the characteristics of this good teacher for which I remember him or her, and let us divide those as parameters into two aspects. So one of the aspects, let us say that it is the personality of the teacher, or say behavior, and second aspect of the teacher, let us take it as, say, the teaching part, that is the skill that the teacher possesses. So we are trying to identify two parameters of this teacher. So this teacher is in center, and these are the two aspects that we are looking for. Now I want you to take this exercise and let me know what are those characteristics of the teacher which you remember today. I mean, for some good reasons. Yeah, please, you could either respond in the chat box. Uh, yeah, yeah. So the teacher was very motivational, very good. So let us write down here. The teacher was very motivational. Great. So this is, I believe, a aspect of personality. Am I correct? Yeah. Yeah. So Kalavati ma'am says that this teacher had a very good hold of his subject. That probably comes under the teaching part. So good hold of the subject. Great. So let us have this under the teaching part. What else? Says Kalavati ma'am, we've already said. Archana ma'am says deep knowledge of the subject. That would also mean that this teacher has good hold of the subject. Yeah, even Balakrishnan sir says that good knowledge, so good hold of the some. Jyoti ma'am says that the teacher was very sympathetic with the students. So let us add it over here. I believe it's the part of personality. Sorry. Yeah. So let us add it over here. The teacher was, you said, very helpful, sympathetic. Then fun ways of learning. Yes, that is. Let us take it in the teaching part. So fun element in the class was there. The teacher was very helpful. Was it help? Was he or she helpful in writing the beauty, ma'am? Kamini ma'am says the teacher was good at communication. That also can be taken as a behavioral aspect or personality aspect. So, good communication. Okay, and what else? Approachable. Balakrishnan sir says that the teacher was very approachable. Whenever you had some doubt, the teacher was always available for solving your problems. Right? So, approachable. Any other reason? Yeah, Shinde sir says, Vaibhav sir says that the teacher was a good evaluator. No? When there is a transparency in evaluation, teachers, students always appreciate that. So, the teacher was good at evaluation. Maybe you used to respond to your assignments very promptly. Then Kamini ma'am says the teacher was creative. So, creativity in teaching. Yeah. What else? What else? Okay. So now let us just connect them all to the corresponding communication, approachable, motivational, very creative in teaching, teaching skills to teach difficult topic in a very easy way. Anvita ma'am says that. So that is also part of the teaching skill. To teach difficult topic in a easy way is also a skill, right? Okay, that's great. So let us connect this over here. The teacher, Sonarkar ma'am says that the teacher was very caring. Great. So caring is the part of behavior. Yeah. Any more answers? Any more answers? Why do we remember our teachers to be? I mean, for what reason do we remember our teachers? Good reasons we remember our teachers even today. Yeah. So these are some reasons. Yeah, the teacher was a good mentor. Very nice. So apart from just classroom teaching, the teacher was a good mentor as well, right? So that is also one of the reason why we would remember our teacher. So mentor, great. Act as a role. Balaji sir says that the teacher was a role model. Yeah, there are very few teachers whom we could see as role models. that really inspires us to become teacher as well. I always had good teachers in my life, I mean, that who have, I mean, motivated me to become a teacher. So since my 10th standard, there was a strong intention to become a teacher. Yeah, Archana ma'am says that provides trick to memorize difficult topic. Yes, helping hand. We've already said teacher is helpful. So yeah, so I think these are the features that we see in our teachers for which we remember them, right? And probably these are the features which we need to, all of us need to incorporate in ourselves so that our students remember us. So these are probably also those reasons for which we want our students to remember us. Yes, right? So after, with this exercise, this exercise, so we want all the parameters that we saw here to be there in us too, so that our students remember us, right? However, there are some challenges that we face today, and the challenges are, you all will agree to me that capturing students' attention in this present era is very difficult, right? And conveying our ideas effectively such that they create lasting impressions in the student is also one of the challenges that we see in front of us. We would want our classroom to be that which was depicted in the scenario too. But these are some of the hurdles which we have to overcome. And another, the attention span of the students is very less. Yes, attention, yeah, I've got few more answers. Praveen sir says the teacher was very punctual. Yeah, we could also add that in the list. Students, do you all agree that the students in the present time have a very short attention span compared to us? Yes, can I get some response? Or can someone guess what is the attention span of the students in the present time? In terms of time, could you please try to guess what is the attention span of the students? Absolutely
Maximum
correct,
10
sir.
minutes.
It's 15 minutes. Yeah. Pavan sir also says 15 minutes. That's absolutely correct. Beauty ma'am says 15 minutes. Absolutely correct. So it is 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. Jyoti ma'am, I mean, the present research says that it is even less than 10 minutes, but 10 to 15 minutes is what I have heard. Like in past, when we were students, and initially when I took, maybe in 2002, when I took pedagogical courses on teaching learning courses, that time it was said that the attention span is between 15 to 20 minutes, but in the present time it is even shorter. The people doubt even if the attention span is 10 to 15 minutes. It research are there which says that it is even lesser than that. So in with all these challenges, we have to still have a scenario in our classroom which was depicted in the picture too. Like, so it means that when I say that the attention span of the teacher, the students, is just 10 to 15 minutes, what does this indicate is that every 10 to 15 minutes I will have to change the mode by which I am communicating with the students. So if I am teaching in a particular way, after every 10 to 15 minutes, I have to bring some newness, some creativity, some innovation in order to capture the attention of the students, to keep them effectively involved in what I am teaching, and to increase their attention span. Right? So it really it poses a challenge for us teachers, that we have to bring in innovation and creativity every 10 to 15 minutes to have our students, make our students listen to what we are teaching. Yeah. So what should we do then? With these challenges, what should we do? So we should incorporate such methods, tools in our teaching, and make a difference every 15 to 20 minutes, right? Every 15 to 20 minutes we need to bring some difference into what we are teaching, the way we are teaching. So today I have arranged some of the methodologies, tools and pedagogies which I have come across. Before I start with the actual presentation, I would just put a disclaimer that these methods are not invented by me. These are some methods which I have experimented with, and some which are developed with the help of my colleagues around. And that is what I have just made an attempt to comprehend all of them and put it into one slide. And I have arranged them alphabetically so as to, for easy remembering them, right? So let us begin with the methodologies, the pedagogies, and the tools. So are we ready? Are we ready to start with it? Yes? Can I have some excitement?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
You could give some
Yes,
emojis
ma'am.
which would really show that you're excited for this particular discussion. Yeah, so Kavita ma'am says yes, Pavan sir says yes. Let us add some creativity here too. Can you put a emoji here which shows your excitement for the further discussion? Let me have some. Oh, that's great. Beauty ma'am says all the best. Yes. Oh, this all the best is for me. Yeah. Great. Then, okay, come on, show some excitement. That will motivate me as well. Some emoji which shows your emotion that you are excited to learn. And it could be other way. If you're not excited to learn, you could put an emoji of that kind. Great. Kalavati ma'am says yes. Yes. Get some response. Yes. Sandeep sir says yes. Okay. So let us start with. So first is I start with the alphabet A, and under which I have two methods to discuss. One is an audio or video recording assignment, and other is animated video. So let us see what it is. So this was one experiment which I did with the subject that I taught in the last semester, that was VEE. Now we all know that due to the pandemic situation, this 6 modules were curtailed to 5 modules, and yet the sixth module had to be discussed with the students, although there was going to be no examination questions based on it. So what I did is, on the sixth module, which was on motors, so there were DC motors, induction motor, and stepper motor included in the module. So what assignment I gave to the student is, they had to come up with one application of either a DC motor, induction motor, or a stepper motor. And instead of writing the assignment, they either had to prepare a document of it or prepare a presentation based on it. And they didn't just have to give the presentation or post the presentation as a part of their assignment, but they also had to record their voice or into it, meaning they had to present it, and at the same time the recording had to be done either in form of, or either narration had to be done, or the video had to be recorded, and that had to be submitted as an assignment. And I was so happy to know that the students had done this particular assignment very nicely. Some actually set up a Google Meet for themselves and recorded the session along with the presentation, add it along with the presentation. So this is one way in which we can make creative assignments for the students. Now the best advantage of this particular audio video recording assignment is that it would eliminate duplication of assignments which we usually face, and there are no much resources required for it. Even with simple PowerPoint presentation, Google Meet, or any screen recording software, that can be done. There is also one open source software available which is called as OpenShot. I'm sure you all must have come across it. And with this, you can even edit your videos. So this was one method, audio video recording assignment. Next is an animated video. So there are tools available online such as Animaker, Rendiforest, etc., which helps you to, in a very easy way, create an animated video of your own. We must have watched such videos on YouTube wherein some processes or equipments have been explained. So these are more suitable for explaining processes, but we could have on other topics as well. So animated videos are one element which we could create using some online animation maker tools like Animaker. Yeah. So this was about A. So can we quickly recall what were the two methods that we see under the alphabet A? Quickly respond upon what are the two methods that we saw. Method number one,
audio video recording.
method one was the audio video recording, and second was animated video. Yeah, thank you for your response. Now we come to alphabet B. So under B we have three methods. One is brainstorming, buzz session, and third is blended learning. So I would be discussing some methods which we are not very acquainted with in detail, and other methods as I said, I have just comprehended it in a single presentation, whichever methods I've come across. So as a part of the presentation, they are there, but I would not be discussing it in much detail. So we have first is brainstorming. So in a brainstorming session, we pose a question to the students, and the students are then supposed to give their views upon it. Now, when we do this brainstorming, one thing that we need to understand is that no answer is wrong. So whatever answers the student give, whether it is correct, acceptable to you, whether it, whether you agree with to it or do not agree to it, you have to just take the suggestions that you get from the student and list it onto the whiteboard. So how would this improve upon our classroom teaching is, it would have more engagement from the student side, and there would be more interaction between the teacher and the student, even amongst themselves. So under B we have brainstorming. Next comes is a buzz session. So here there's a small group. This group has been formed to either solve a problem or generate an idea, and here the role of the teacher is that of a facilitator. So teacher just facilitate when the students are discussing in that small group about some idea or some problem solving. The teacher has to just facilitate them in order to reach to some conclusion or consensus upon the idea or the topic which the students are discussing upon. So it seems to be like more or like a discussion, but just like a group discussion. But here the teacher's role is that of a facilitator, and the main thing is it has to be done in a small group. Yeah, so this was about the bus session. The next comes is the blended learning. So as the name suggests, it is the blend of classroom teaching and along with the online teaching using various resources. Yeah, but this is one one pedagogy under which the teacher and the student both are physically present. So we've come across flipped classroom, which is also a method that comes under blended learning. So blending, it means it is a combination. So combination of our traditional approach and some online resources, online methodology or approaches or resources that we share with the students. So this is one pedagogy which is termed as blended. Yeah, Chandrakishori ma'am says that think pair share is also, so that also I have discussed it under the letter alphabet T. Yeah, so this is blended learning. So it's a big area under which think pair share would be one, maybe say flipped classroom is another. There could be many methodologies under this. Next we have is under C, we have four methods, that is case study, crossword puzzle, collaborative problem solving, and collaborative note taking. So of this case studies we all are aware with. So case study involves observation, analysis, implementation, summarization based on the scenario which is assigned to the students. Right? So this is we all must have experienced or some other time assigned case studies to the students. So whenever we have applications, their case studies are most suitable. One example that I recall from my subject is robotics, which I taught in 7th semester of computer engineering, is that the first module has a description about all the specifications of a robot. So they even in their experiments, the first experiment is a study experiment. So instead of actually copying down same things for all the students, each student were given a task of identifying one industrial robot which is in application right now, and whatever specifications are there in the syllabus that we need to identify, understand about the robot, they had to identify it for the robot that they have taken. I mean, the industrial robot that they have chosen, they had to analyze all the specifications for that particular, even the application part of it. So that was a case study that I had given to my students. So it is generally when we have some applications, the case studies are more suitable. Next is crossword puzzle. So we remember solving crossword puzzles in newspapers. So this is like crossword puzzles which could be generated using online applications or tools like Puzzle Maker, and it could be for memorizing things, or maybe if you want them to recall some parts of a particular device. In that case, crossword puzzles could be worked out. Right, so again, some online tools are there. This is just one I have listed, but there could be many which could help you to generate the crossword puzzles. Next comes is collaborative problem solving or problem solving in a group. Again, this enhances the communication skills of the student, and then here the students are again divided into small groups and they've been assigned a problem. Now this particular problem is not a typical textbook kind of problem, but it is more involved kind, and in a discussion again the teacher is a facilitator which helps the students to come to the solution of that particular problem. So in a collaborative way, in a team, the students are solving a problem. So that's termed as collaborating problem solving or problem solving in a group. Next we have under C is collaborative note taking, which I would like to discuss. So usually when we teach in a class, the students do take their own notes. Now in this collaborative note taking, what we do is we form pair of students, and individually when you are teaching, they would take their notes, and after teaching a certain portion, this particular group or a pair of students would be given some time to discuss among themselves and see what is there in their particular notes amongst themselves. So if a certain thing is missing in another person's notebook, he or she would be completing it from the his or her partner's notebook. So in this way, the partner adds or corrects the information that is recorded as notes in the other person's notebook, and the goal here is to improve the notes of both the members. So this is termed as collaborative note taking. So this could be a 5 minutes exercise. So if I've taken say 15 minutes of my class, I could give 5 minutes for the students to take collaborative, I mean to check out their notes in a collaborative manner and enhance their notes. So this is what is collaborative note taking is. Now next is we come to D. The first one which we have in D is debugging. So debugging is more related to of code, which actually enhances the coding skills of the student. And believe me, it could be more engaging activity than actually giving uh, a problem for, a student giving assigning the students to write a code. So it could be even more involving and engaging than actually writing a code. Students, so debugging could be one exercise. You could deliberately give a incorrect code to the students, and then they have to check out for what the mistake is, right? And in this, even when you teach programming subjects, we give them problems like what finding out output of a particular snippet of the code. So that is also one which can be taught, I mean can be used in programming classes. Another under D that we have is demonstration. So demonstrations are always fascinating because it's said that what we see is what we remember more. So it is communicating. Demonstration is a communication of an idea or a concept with the help of some visual aids. Now this visual aids could be some model, or it could be some practical experiment which we could demonstrate in the class. One which I remember from my experiences, that I have sometimes taught the subject electrical technology when there is a topic called DC motors. So what I had done many a times is I used to go to the repairing shop where generally people get their motors, that's mixer grinders or washing machine repaired, and that person used to lend me a motor which he used to have for the maintenance purpose. And then actually we could just open the parts of the motor, show them what the brushes are, where. So this kind of demonstration, it of course it was not in the running condition, but when you have even this kind of equipment for demonstration in the class, it does improve the understanding of the students. So demonstration is one part. Now next we have is starting from letter E. So kindly, I mean, quickly give me some response of how is the session so far. How is the session going so far? Some response?
Very good.
Okay, okay. In the chat? Okay, fine, fine. So is everyone along with me? Is everyone along with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay, that's
ma'am.
great. That's great. So let us go ahead with the next alphabet. That is under this, which I have two things, and I have wonderful experience to share under exhibition. Let me first describe what is exit slip. So exit slip is when we want to quickly assess how well our students have understood the class. We could use a exit slip. This is generally done at the end of the class, and I want to assess how whatever I taught in the class, whether it is being understood by the students or not. So it could have questions like what was the most interesting thing that you learned in the class today, or it could be I mean, if you want to know what were the lacuna in the class, it could be what should have been included in today's class so that the session would have been more interesting. So this kind of questions, like completion of statements, could be given to the students already printed, and they have to mark their response, complete the sentence, and hand it over to the teacher. So these are termed as exit slips, which give you a quick review of how well the students have understood the contents that you have taught in the class. Right? So that is about the exit slip. And next we have is exhibition. Now what picture I have shown here is an actual picture from our institute. This is also listed as one of our best practices for the NAC. We since past many years, maybe say 10 years, we host an exhibition called as Yantra. So this exhibition, as you all know, Vasai is an industrial area. There are many medium to small scale industries, and there are a lot of manufacturer of products, electronic products, instrumentation products, even mechanical products. So what we do is in the month of September, we host this product exhibition wherein students go to the industry, they communicate with them, they convince them to share their products. So we all must have been to industrial exhibitions, maybe in NSE grounds. So we have seen the scenario there. So there exhibitors exhibit the product, and there are people who would give you more detail about the product. So what we do here is we send our students to the industry, they get the detailed information about the product, and they also, the industries nearby are very kind enough to lend us their product for 2 days. So one day they get the product here, they set it up, and the next day there is an exhibition. So all the students from all departments would visit each other places, and they would be able to see real products, and student would get an opportunity to exhibit the product. So they would also show the pamphlets of it and explain some products. I'm very happy to share that even in the working state, meaning they would have their test bench along with it, and even the working of the products could be shown. So this was listed as one of our best practices of the institution, and we had a very good response. So some kind of this kind of exercise could be included in our subjects as well. So wherever there are some electronic equipments, or then we could have this kind of exhibition. And if it's not possible to get the products, actually it could be in form of pamphlets as well. So students, the pamphlets are easily available on internet. So students could have an access to the pamphlet of one product, and they have to own that product, meaning they will be then explaining that product to the rest of the students. So this kind of short exhibitions we could have for some of the subjects which involve some products to be demonstrated. So this is one exhibition. Next we have from the letter F, we have flipped classroom. We all are aware with, because it's very whenever we take any pedagogical courses, this would be the first thing that would be discussed by the speakers. So flipped classroom. So, as a name suggests, the activities that we do here in the classroom and in the lecture are both flipped. Here, just one suggestion I would like to make is, we have to be very critical in the resource that we are sharing with the students as a home assignment. So that has to be properly chosen. It could not be a complete video that we have taken from the YouTube and just shared with the student, or complete PDF that we share with the student. We have to be very specific what is the thing that we want our students to learn on their own as a home activity, and based on which we are going to take some class activity. So I'm sure all of us are aware of this flipped classroom activity. Only thing that I wish to stress upon is, be very clear about what resource you are sharing as a home activity for the students. Next comes is field trip. So a field trip or an industrial visit probably is, in the true sense, could make a lot of difference. It would make the students experience the labs outside the laboratories, or classrooms outside the classrooms. So actually what they would be able to see in a real industrial scenario would give them more clarity of the concepts that they learn in the classrooms. And apart from that, they also they also get an opportunity to understand what the industrial environment is, where they're going to further in future go and work. So this is one field trip. Now let us see what is the next. What is the next alphabet? What is the next alphabet?
G.
What can you guess? What would be there for G?
Group discussions.
Huh?
Group discussions.
Group
Group
discussions.
discussions.
Okay. Yes. What else? What pedagogy, or what methodologies or tools that? Yeah, game. Yes. Yes. What else? Starting from letter G. Group activity. Okay. Group activity. Ritu ma'am says. Lochan ma'am says. Let us see. So from with G we have four things. One is guided reciprocated questions, GitHub repository, group discussion, and guest lectures. Of course, games are also there, but I have included them somewhere else. Like one which I said, crossword, I included it under C. So there are few more games, but I have included it under the corresponding alphabet which the game starts with. So one is guided reciprocated question. This I would like to explain in a little detail. So what are guided reciprocated questions is, we have to divide here in this particular activity, we divide our students into a group of 3 to 4, and we give them this skeleton of uh, the questions which they have to complete on the basis of what concept we have taught. So for example, I do 20 minutes of my lecturing. After that, the concept that I have taught in the 15-20 minutes, I ask them to frame questions of this kind. For example, what is the difference between a flipped classroom and a field trip? Or what is the conclusion that I can draw about from, say, what methodology we have seen, say, brainstorming? Or what is the main idea of, say, blended learning? So this kind of questions they have to frame from the concept that I have taught just in the class. And of course, the answer of that also has to be discussed. Now let us take up this activity, and I request you all to frame some questions using this skeleton on the basis of what topics we have discussed so far. Can we have that exercise? What you have to do is, what on the basis of what we have seen so far, you have to frame this kind of questions, whichever you feel. and then you could just post it in the chat box. Yeah, so let us do this activity. Some examples I've already said. So similar to that, you could use any one of the frame of the question, and you could create a question out of what we have learned, discussed so far. Come on, can I have quickly some questions framed using this skeleton? So why is it called as guided reciprocated question is because you already giving some templates for them to fill in the questions. So it is some sort of guidance or guidelines given to the for the framing of the questions. So can we have some questions based on our discussion so far? It could be as simple as what is the main idea of blended learning? So we said the main idea of blended learning is that whatever activities, whatever is our traditional way of teaching, that has to be supported with some other online resources. So that is what is main idea of blended learning. So can we have quickly some questions of frame from this particular using this framework? Come on quickly. I won't be asking you the answer of it. Yeah. So Sukruti ma'am says, what is the difference between wired and wireless communication, and how does this affect the data rate? Yeah. So she says this on the basis of what subject she is taught, that is wireless communication probably. Can we do this exercise based on what topic we have discussed today in this particular session? Some questions framed from this discussion. Yeah, so Sukrit ma'am, probably this kind of exercise after teaching the difference between wired and wireless communication, where you have discussed about how each type of communication affects the data rate. Maybe your students could come up with this kind of question. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, correct.
yeah. So can I request some questions at least? Yeah, so what are the strength? Yeah, very nice, very nice. I have a lot of questions now. So Beauty ma'am says, what are the strength and weakness of flipped classroom technique? Yeah, so this could be a question which could be discussed, that what are the pros and cons of flipped classroom? We conclude that EM propagates. Yeah, again, Archana ma'am has given example from her own course. That's great. Then Sheetal ma'am says, how would I use flipped classroom to make students more comfortable in learning? Yeah, so this was this question, how would I use? So she's completed that, great. And Vaibhav sir says, what is brainstorming? What if TPS is used? Yeah, so where is a question? What is what is brainstorming? Where is it? Fine, I don't locate it here, but that's an appropriate question. Yeah, what is the main idea behind an exhibition? Yes, Trupti ma'am. Yeah, so wonderful. You've given great answers. Some have given based on their own topics, and some have given the questions framed on what we have discussed so far. So I hope you've understood the idea behind guided reciprocated questions. And see, what is the difference between, yes, Prachi ma'am says, what is the difference between blended learning and online learning? Yeah, that also can be discussed. So blended is of course a combination of online and offline. Great. So I'm sure that the idea of guided reciprocated question is conveyed to you. Let us next see what we have with us. This is GitHub repository. Now this is some tool that I had used in my CP practicals in the last semester. The students are in their, what is prescribed in their curriculum is that they have to submit 20 experiments, but in actual they have to do more experiments to get a good understanding of C language. So what we've done is we'd asked the students to submit their flowcharts as well as their programs, the C program that they write. They had to create, each student had to create a GitHub account, and under that GitHub account they had to create a repository, and in the repository they had to upload the programs and the flowchart as and when they complete it. And as for the purpose of evaluation, what I had done is program some at home and give it. So when I evaluate, so we all know that when we evaluate experiments, one of the parameter in evaluation is the timely submission. So this could be very well checked using this, because then it gives you the date and day when the experiment was uploaded. So when I had to check 20 experiments, I mean, as and when they complete, you could just go to their repositories, and they were asked to submit the link of the repositories with the help of a Google form. So I had a complete list of all the repository links for all the students, and I just to visit that and see what experiment they have performed on what day in order to give marks related to the timely submission part of the rubrics. So this is one very nice interesting thing, and we wish to carry forward it that in a way that all the subsequent subjects that they learn on programming, they would be creating repositories for each subject, and they would be uploading their contents there, and this gives them like once it is there in their repository, they could have an access to this even from their home. So this was one thing that we had introduced in the last semester, that is GitHub repository. Next is group discussion, which we are all familiar with, so I would not be discussing it in more detail. Here typically we have some idea or some problem that is to be solved, and we do it in a small group, and finally the group comes out with a conclusion and a comment. So this is what is group discussion. And guest lecture, of course, gives them an opportunity to interact with people from industry. So some or other time we do take an effort to call guests from industry and have them interact with the students. Now it could be some advanced topic related to your the contents that we need to teach to the students beyond the syllabus, so as to make them industry ready, or at least give them a glimpse of that so that they can pursue or make efforts in that particular direction to learn it on their own. So guest lecture is a very good method to introduce them to the latest technologies and have an experience shared by industry professionals. So what practice we follow in our department here is that it is not possible to get guest lecture for each and every subject. So we identify one or two subjects in a semester where we could invite a guest speaker from in the industry and have a guest lecture. Otherwise, having it for all the subjects would become too difficult to even organize and manage. So guest lecture is one thing that we could have. And next is we have humor. So we all would agree to this that uh, I mean, even the psychology says that when we are happy, we learn, our learning capacity, our learning ability gets improved. Do you all agree to this? Do you all agree to this? Then when we are happy, we learn better. Yeah? Yes? Yeah, so Prachi ma'am is sharing that GitHub is effective for PBL, machine learning, yes. And many of Kalavati ma'am has responded, Kamini ma'am, Rashmi ma'am says that when we are happy, we are in a better position to learn. And so a bit of humor in a classroom can help to this. So it could create a little light environment, improve upon the communication gap between the students and the teacher. Of course, it should not go to very extreme thing, but a bit of humor could create a better environment to learn, right? So, and so under H we have humor and anecdote. So anecdote is a short interesting story about some real person or an event. So when we share this kind of events with the students, they get interest in, I mean, students are always interested in listening to this kind of stories in actual personal. Of course, these stories are not some motivational stories, but they are very much related to the topic or the concept that we are teaching. So this could also help the students. Another thing that we have under H is some history material. So whenever we teach a concept, there is always some history associated with it. For example, if we are teaching digital signal processing and we are teaching the topic in that, the topic that we are teaching in that is say Fourier series. So Fourier series has a history. So how was it developed? What was the experiment through which Fourier understood it? How further developments were made? So this kind of narration of history related to concept can make the students more curious in learning the topic. For example, when I had taught when I teach robotics, For robotics and AI, there is a good timeline or history how the developments were made. So even how did the word robot first came into existence? So even I was surprised when I had read it for the first time that the word robot was first used in. Can you just guess what was that area in which where it was first brought into practice or first used? Can someone guess the term robot? It is related to the history of robotics. Where was it first used? What could be the area? I mean, would it be industry or where in these Vaibhav sir says it is service industry. Balakrishnan sir says it's movie. Yeah, sir, it was first used in a drama. It was a Czechoslovakian drama, Czech drama, where the term for robot was first used. So whenever we teach a concept, when we give some historical background about it, so that makes the students more curious about learning it, right? So this kind of sharing of history material could also help the students, help to create curiosity amongst the students. Now we come to the next alphabet, that is I, under which we have three things. One is infographics, inquiry based learning, and third is interview. Now infographic means it is a compound of two things which is included in its spelling itself. Info stands for information and graphic stands for some visual representation. So when I give some visual representation along with some information, then it is termed as infographics. So these infographics could be used in our presentations, or what exercise we had done, but I just discussed about the timeline of robotics and AI. So this particular thing, this has been taken from internet, but this kind of timeline we had, the infograph we had created in a class during the online classes. So there was this one sheet that was one spreadsheet, the screen that was shared with the students. The link for that was shared with the student, and every student was assigned an event. For example, if it's the year 1971, so what was a major development in the area of robotics in the year 1971? So that way every student was given one year, and then the student, in a sequential way, in a chronological order, when the student that particular year we are discussing, the student had to write down the development that was made in that particular year. So this was done as a group activity, and it was quite fun, and it made the students remember many of the happenings that had taken place in the area of robotics and AI, which would have been otherwise difficult to remember. So this was creating of infographics was done as a group activity, but otherwise also we could have infographics created on our own for making our presentation more effective and beautiful. So infographics is one. Next is inquiry based learning. So inquiry based learning is like on the base of questions. Like, so it could help the students engage in experiential learning. So it starts with investigating the surrounding to identify more than one problems, and then we narrow down to one particular problem, and then further work for finding out the solution of that particular problem. So it is just based on some investigations that are that we have done in our surrounding, the problems that we have identified, and then we choose one particular problem out of it in order to come to the result state, and finally also make some conclusion based on the results. So this is termed as inquiry based learning. Now what I feel is these are different terms. Maybe we will be using this kind of activities already in our classes, but it is more formally named as inquiry based learning, right? So this is one thing. Another that we have is, yeah, a interview. So an interview could be used to gauge the technical understanding of the students, and it is basically questioning. So whatever concept we have taught, based on that we could have some questions and in form of an interview. So rather than just normal question answer session, it could be in form of in a setting of an interview. So same technical, gauging the technical ability of the student can be done with the help of an interview, and of course in the classroom itself, right? maybe we could have these kind of sessions when we conduct practical sessions where we have smaller groups. So in that, a pair of students could be formed. One could be the interviewer and other could be the candidate, and then vice versa, the roles could be exchanged. So questions could be asked based on the technical concepts that are taught. Next is we come to J. From J we have, and let me just check the time. Yeah, fine. So from J we have jigsaw and Jeopardy game. So let us see what is a jigsaw. So jigsaw is also a game, right? We all must have played it in our childhood. Yes or no? How many of you know about this game, jigsaw? Jigsaw puzzles are very famous. So you have some scenery which is broken into parts, and then you mess it up, and then you just find out the relevant parts, make to like, bring them together to form a complete picture. Now, how do we utilize this jigsaw in our teaching? So let me narrate this with the help of an example that I had experimented in my class. So I had taught this subject machine learning, which is an elective subject in 6th semester of computer engineering. So in the first module itself, there is an introductory thing wherein we learn what are the types of machine learning. So can someone tell me what are the types of machine learning? I'm sure there were some faculty members, or otherwise also. Now machine learning has become so famous and interdisciplinary that almost everyone must be aware of what are the types of machine learning. So can you quickly respond? What are the types of machine learning? Yeah, can I have? Yeah, one is Anita ma'am says it is supervised and unsupervised. These are two broad categories. Yeah, there is also one more to it. Although these are most appropriate ones, but there is also one more to it, that is reinforcement learning. So one is supervised machine learning, other is unsupervised, and third is reinforcement. Now under each kind of this machine learning, there are around 7 to 8 attributes on basis of which we can compare them. For example, in case of supervised learning, we have labeled data, whereas in case of unsupervised, we not have labeled data. Now supervised learning would be more suitable for classification. Unsupervised would be applicable in some another applications. Reinforcement learning is where the robot learns by its own experience, by trial and error. So there are 7 8 attributes of them are suitable to what is the kind of data that we would have for them, what is the methodology that is adopted. So what I have done is that suppose there are 8 parameters under each type of learning. So student with parameter 1 of supervised, unsupervised, so each student was assigned one parameter. It could be from either of them. So in total, say if there are 3 type of learning and 8 type of attributes that we are going to discuss, in all there will be 24 attributes that were there. So each student was assigned one attribute. Now corresponding to attribute 1 of all the 3 types of learning, a small group was formed. A group of 3 members were formed. Similarly with 2, similarly with attribute 3, 4, and so on. So amongst them, this one, for the attribute 1, there was a discussion about supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement, the same as with the other. And then at the end of this discussion, what was done is, at the end of the activity, 1 to 8 of supervised learning had to come together on the stage and explain what. Similarly, following that, 1 to 8 attributes of unsupervised had to be explained altogether. So look at this now. So individually, whatever they discussed in parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, now that has to be all aggregated and a complete picture has to be discussed. So this is what is a one particular example that I had implemented for jigsaw. So it has 2 components. One is the discussion part, and then we aggregate it bring the complete picture in front of the class. And also this could follow with a quiz. Right? So this is what is jigsaw. Now next thing is a game which is Jeopardy. Now, the what is this Jeopardy game is that you have some set of questions, right? And each question is assigned some marks, maybe, or you can say some amount is been assigned to a particular question. Students are divided into groups, and it is like a quiz. But then now they say if they go for this particular question, the question is then opened. It is say for 100 points. So this question is opened. If the group is able to respond to the question, they get 100 marks for it. If suppose the group doesn't respond to the question goes to the next. So it is typically the quiz activities that we see in television shows. So it's similar to that. So then it goes to the next. Then the next group will have its own turn to take up a question. So as many question a group is able to answer, they will get that many points. And at the end of the activity, when all the questions are correctly answered, the group which is scoring highest marks could be declared as a winner. So this is basically a quiz, but it could be taken in a setting of a Jeopardy game. So which would add a little excitement in the class. So this is one thing. Next we come to the next letter, that is K. So under K, I would like to discuss about the Kahoot platform, which is used to use for gaming. I mean, to create games as well as quizzes. Now this helps us to create dynamic quizzes. Usually multiple choice questions could be a type of quizzes could be created using this, and this could be done with the help of a web browser. So I'm sure some or other time we must have come across this Kahoot quiz. So it requires you to create a quiz, and the code of the quiz is to be shared with the students, and then students could online come, I mean, could give the quiz, and whatever other results are also could be made available on a screen. So this is Kahoot platform, which can be used for games as well as quizzes. Right. So next we come to library assignment, right? So this also has a personal experience associated with it. So what would typically a library assignment would mean is the students would have to go to the library, and they have to access the books that are there in the library to either write an assignment, or they have to appear for an open book test in the library. So this would I mean, at least enforce students to take up books from the library and read them, which is becoming very few students actually access physical books. They're used to reading the online books available. So this could be a good exercise where they would go to the library and open books and either write an assignment or a test. Now, as I said, necessity is the mother of invention. So I have a good experience with this library assignment. So there was just beginning of the semester, and a teacher was not available, and there was a practical session. So because the theory part was not covered, none of other person also could engage the class. I mean, that particular group of students, batch of students. So what we did is, because it was just the first week of the lectures, the semester. So we asked the students to go to the library along with the syllabus of the subject, and there are some reference books and textbooks that are mentioned there. So we asked them to take up an assignment of identifying which particular module or which particular topic of a module is given best in which textbook. So they had to refer to at least 2 or 3 textbooks and check out which textbook has which topic given best, at least by scanning them, just having a first view that it is available, because rarely we would have a textbook which has all the topics. So this was one exercise we got done from our student as a library assignment. But of course, other regular assignments or open book test could be also taken up as a library assignment. So from L, it was library assignment. Then we come to the next alphabet, that is M, where we have mind map, minute paper. Yeah. So thank you, Rishmi ma'am. Rishmi ma'am says that library assignment is a very nice tool. Now with M, we have a mind map, then a minute paper, Mentimeter is another web-based tool, and mnemonics. So let us see what is mind map. So mind map, so we've already seen it at the beginning of our class. So we had an idea So we just kept the central idea in front of the student, and then we wanted to expand the idea with the involvement of the student. So there are many tools such as Lucid Chat or Mind Em Up. So on using these online tools, we could create these kind of mind maps. So generally when there are subcategories to a particular option, for example, if you were teaching, say, mechanics, so mechanics can be divided into static and dynamic. Static would have another subpart below it. Dynamic could have expansion can be done with the help of a mind map. Of course, it is also very nice tool to represent a project idea. So what appears here is, say, what a project would involve planning, or say if you're going for a product development, so it would involve planning, creativity, productivity, teamwork, benefit. So each, there are 5 aspects. Each aspect then further has some categories, right? So this kind of idea expansion could be done with the help of a mind map, and this could be created within the class with the involvement of the students. So we have already seen the demonstration of this as well. Now we come to a very nice tool which is termed as minute paper, and this minute paper is a tool that is generally used to assess whether whatever concepts you have taught have been understood by the student at the end of the session. So you could post one small question to the students at the end of the session, and they have to respond to it. So this is what is called as minute paper. So a minute paper, because it is a small question paper or small question that you are posing to the students just to gauge their understanding, right? So this is termed as minute paper. And see, some of the techniques would be too common that we must be already using, but when we tell to the students that today we are going to have a minute paper, so it adds an excitement to them. So it is no rocket science, but these are simple techniques. And when we say it in that way to the students, when we say that today we are going to have a minute paper at the end of the class, so they'll be excited to know what this minute paper is, right? So it is actually a simple question which you're going to take from them at the end of the class, but in a very it's been formally called as a minute paper, right? So minute paper is another tool. Next comes Mentimeter. So this is used to create dynamic quizzes and can be used for competitions as well as interactive presentations. So it is again a web-based tool, and it is a nice tool to engage your students, have interaction with them. Even questions can be asked, and even polling can be done using this Mentimeter. You could explore it more. Then we come to next, that is mnemonics. So we've all been, when we used to study in schools, at least I recall using mnemonics in order to remember things. So you could, for one class or for one particular topic where there are several points to be discussed under one topic or one concept, so you could have mnemonics representing each component, and then that would create an interest and also easily make the students remember it. For example, SMART stands for specific, when we achievable, realistic, and timely. We've been you practicing this kind of mnemonics a lot times when we had to remember our trigonometric formulae, or to remember in which where the sign is positive, where is cos positive quadrant. So to remember that also we had used some sort of mnemonics. So these kind of mnemonics also can create interest in the students and also help them remember the things well. Next comes is from N, we have non-cookbook lab. Now, what is this non-cookbook lab is? Has anyone heard of this? Because this was a very recent, is a term which I had, understood in a pedagogy training that I had taken in last January. So, what is this non-cookbook lab? So, let us first discuss about what are cookbook labs. So, actually, cookbook labs are the labs which we usually take. The laboratory sessions which we usually take are like kind of cookbook labs, because typically we would have the aim discussed with the student. They would know what hypothesis they are to prove through that experiment. We would also give them procedure to do the experiment. The table in which they have to record their readings are given. what kind of graph has to be drawn from it, what calculations are to be done, all the skeleton is given to, and finally probably the conclusion is also pre-known to them. So this is like a recipe book. In the recipe book, the ingredients are given, the methodology is given, and the end what product you're going to get is also known to you. So it is typically what experiments we do are the cookbook experiments. Maximum we would, what we would do is we would ask to write, pose a question in the conclusion part and want them to answer. But that also what students generally do is all of them would draw a same conclusion out of the experiment. So these are typical cookbook labs. They are also necessary because it is in a structured way. You are asking the students what is to be done. But along with some cookbook labs, we could have non-cookbook labs wherein the complete information is not given to the students, meaning they do not know what the procedure. They themselves to devise procedure. Then they have to themselves identify what are the readings that I have to take from this particular experiment, and after noting down the readings, whether I'm supposed to draw some graph in order to come to a conclusion, or there are some calculations that I need to do in order to come to conclusion. So this is not mentioned to them explicitly in form of some instructions, but that is they have to devise. So not all experiments fair understanding. So to make a students habituated to this kind of lab sessions wherein they have to devise a procedure, we could have, say, if of the 10 experiments, 7 experiments, 6 experiments could be our regular experiments, and 2 to 3 experiments could be of the kind where we want the students to identify the procedure, conclusion, and what further calculation part they have to do. So this is what is called as non-cookbook lab, and it actually improves the higher order skills of the students. Otherwise they just stick to what we've given, they just follow the procedure and get the results out of it. But this is something that they would analyze on their own and come to this kind of cookbook initially to just see how it works well, or I mean, so that even we learn from our experiences. So initially we can pose one in the middle of the semester, maybe after middle of the semester we could have one particular experiment of this kind and see how the results are, and then further improvements we could add, right? So this is what is non cookbook lab. Then next we come to the letter O, which has two things in store. One is open-ended questions and other is open to book test. These are very simple. So let us come to open-ended questions. So open-ended questions are one which will not have their answer in just two, yes or no. But it requires more involvement from the student side. They have to identify whatever question is being posed to them. They have to identify the what part, how part, where, when, why. So it is in more detail and requires a longer answer. So these are termed as open-ended questions. They are not typical textbook questions. But what observations we make in our environment, based of course related to what topic we are teaching. So some questions of this kind could be framed. So these are termed as open-ended questions. Next is open book test, which we've already said as a part of library assignment. So open book examination is a good assessment method to refer to this. So it makes the students refer to their class notes and textbooks and then write the test. And of course, the question paper for the open textbook is actually to be designed in a very different way than the usual question paper. So when they are writing a closed book test, the question paper could be moderate. But in an open book test, it has to be more. The questions have to be more involved. Right? So it adds to the efforts of the teacher to frame these questions, such a question, how to obtain the solution for it. So open book test. Next we come to P, where we have project based learning, polls, peer teaching, and clickers. Now what is project based learning? This is also something which is discussed in many of the pedagogical, the trainings that we would have. So it is actually quite broad, but in our normal curriculum that we have, we would have to take efforts how to incorporate it. And actually what is my understanding is that see in project based learning, actually the application part is, I mean, the project is available to the student. In a normal project, what the students do, whatever they've learned in their courses, they try to apply it in the project. But what is my understanding about project based learning is, here they take up a project and whatever is required for the implementation of the project, they go back and learn and then implement it. So it is sort of reverse of what we do it in our regular practice, but we could just skillfully try to add in one subject at least in a semester, where the students would learn on the basis of a project, right? So this has to be very skillfully. There is a lot of literature available on project based learning, right? So and it's being practiced in many education institutes at a very good level, right? So this is what is project based learning. Next is polls. Now easily this with the tools such as Mentimeter, which I said earlier, and poll everywhere, these are two tools which have come across to generate polls. So you can have a quick review, quickly have a poll on this. So how many students agree to this, how many disagree to this, and then you give a justification for why they agree, why, I mean, why it is a correct thing or what is a false thing. So there could be a justification following the poll that you take from the students. So polls is another tool which involves, I mean, the class would be very enthusiastic to give polls, right? So next is peer teaching. So it is said that when we teach, we learn twice. So, and another experience that I have had personally is when students teach each other, they learn better. Once you explain a particular part, the further extension of it, the students could learn among themselves. So this could be peer. Of course, it's not to be, I mean, the entire topic is not to be given as a part of peer learning. But once you introduce a particular topic, maybe say some problem solving part or the further extension of it, they could discuss among themselves, teach each other. And the students, my experience says that they learn better when they are taught by their peers. So peer teaching could be involved in our teaching. Next comes is plickers. So plickers is another way of taking a quiz. So what it requires is a smartphone, and it requires us to print this kind of plicker cards which are readily available on some web-based applications. One website where you could generate plickers is plickers.com. So you could have questions, and actually this is like there's a pattern to it. So depending on what option the student is for, maybe A, B, C, D, four options that you've given for a question, they would place this card in a particular way. And what teacher has to do is, teacher has to have an application installed in the smartphone, and the teacher has to just turn on the camera and move over the camera in the entire classroom. It automatically captures the images and it generates a statistics of who's opted for what question. And in fact, it could even assess the marks of the students, whether based on whether the student has given a right answer or a wrong answer. So like we have physical devices called as clickers, which we must have seen in this Kaun Banega Karodpati, when the audience has to poll. So similar, that's a physical device, but it would not be possible for us to have that physical device here. But clickers is something which requires us is printouts and the application installed application on our Android phone. So this is one tool which can be used to conduct a quiz. Of course, it is not, it's just a tool to create a quiz, but it could add some excitement in the class. Some interest could be generated in the class. Now we come to question designing, starting from Q. And this is where the students will have to design questions based on the concept learned. Unlike guided reciprocated question, there is no framework given for this, but they have to devise a question based on the things that they have learned in the past. So you could ask the students, come on, quickly design some questions based on what I have taught, and then you could have a discussion over the questions, right? Now, next from R, we have role play, real life situations involved, real world experiences, review writing, and reward. So, role play, I would like to share one. I mean, at least the term is known to all of us, but I would like to share one experience with you. When I taught C programming in the last semester, and I was taking this topic bubble sort and linear sort. So, we had a group of students who who demonstrated these sorting methods with the help of a small skit of 3 to 5 minutes. So this kind of role plays could be introduced wherever suitable. Next comes to, we always do this. We do, when we start a topic, we discuss the real life situations, real world experiences with the students. So you could just, add an excitement to the class, saying that today we're going to discuss some real life situations based on the topic. Today we're going to discuss some real world experience. So which you might be otherwise also doing. But when I say this loud, it creates a enthusiasm in the class. So this is one way, real life situations. This I would like to share review writing. So one exercise that we had done for the courses of digital signal processing and natural language processing was, we assigned, instead of giving assignment to the student, we'd given them a research paper. Meaning given in the sense they had to find out a research paper on a particular topic that are there in their modules, and the main idea should be that. Right? So what they had to do is, they had to analyze the methodology, the results that are discussed in the paper, and they had to give a presentation based on it, and also write a review report of what understanding they have gained from the paper. So this kind of exercise can improve their investigation skills, which we talk about in PO4. So this can be improved with this with exercise of review writing. So you could have some selected subjects wherein you could find some good research papers of the level the students can understand, and then they can write a review over it. Right. Next is reward. This is not a methodology or a tool, but it is just a small action which you could have. You could, whenever you conduct a quiz or any other student gives answer, or so for, you could have some reward given to it. Now the reward need not be necessarily in kind, but it could be just a small certificate that could be posted on the class WhatsApp group, or it could be even a small chocolate can be, that can be given as a gesture of appreciation to the students. So a small reward, we all also, like when we are rewarded or appreciated. So some activity or some gesture of rewarding the students could be done, which encourages them to perform better. Next comes from S, that is storytelling. I'll just wind up in another 5-7 minutes. Storytelling, spoken tutorial, survey, and Scrabble. So, storytelling, of course, related to the concept. So, let me just narrate this story quickly. What you see in this picture, and this lady is Queen Dido of Carthage. Carthage is a place, and she was given a task. This was a story which I narrated while teaching, while introducing the topic of optimization in machine learning. So, this is the lady, Queen Dido, and she was given a task of having this. This is a bull hive, and she had to arrange the bull hive in such a way that she can enclose maximum area with that bull hive that she can have, that she has, and whatever area that she can enclose with the bull hive would belong to her, that she could purchase. So basically what problem she faced was that she had a fixed perimeter, and with that she had to enclose maximum area. Now can you just give a solution to Queen Dido, how she should arrange that fixed perimeter so as to have maximum area? Can someone give a solution for Queen Dido's problem? What would be that geometrical figure which would have fixed perimeter that could enclose maximum area? Absolutely correct, Rishmi ma'am. It is circle. So Queen Dido did not use calculus to do so. She was very witty, wise to get this solution. But with the many means of calculus, and using your optimization methods, you could find out that this is nothing but going to be, this geometrical figure is going to be a circle. So this is some story. It's a real story. And it's a very good tool to introduce a topic. So this kind of storytelling could be there. Then one thing that I again used for C programming, which I liked very much, it had taken it as an experiment, was to use spoken tutorial. So instead of giving the list of experiments to be performed to the students, they were asked to go through the spoken tutorial videos and learn the go through the videos, understand it, and then implement the programs. And the students could learn at their own pace, their own time, and it was a quite successful experiment that I experienced. So spoken tutorials could be used for some programming languages. Then next is simulation. So some sort of demonstration or simulation tool can be used to show the results. So if you are there designing an amplifier, the same could be implemented using a simulation tool, and the results could be shown to the students. So MATLAB is one example tool. Of course, it's a paid one, but there are a lot of free tools also available for various subjects. Next comes is survey. Depending on what kind of, like some questions to be posed to a larger group of audience, and taking their views on the questions, drawing some conclusions out of the results that are obtained. This is typically how a survey is. So depending on the settings and the type of subject that you are teaching, maybe survey also can be one of the tools. Next is Scrabble, which is very similar to the word game that we saw. So if I want to ask students to recall components of a device or an instrument, or even if when English teachers want to build up the vocabulary of the students, Scrabble could be one tool. So here as a part of this, my subjects that I've taught, I would use it. My message, we can't say about best so simulation tool. There are many. It is up to us to explore. Like for example, ACDC, one which I use for BW was ACDC circuits. So it is up to us. There are a lot of tools available which you could explore and come to a conclusion. So Scrabble is one thing which you could ask. Take it take it as exercise to recall the components, or some part that is already learned in the last class maybe. Next, we come to T, that is think, pair, share, and treasure hunt. About think, pair, share, I would not discuss much because we all are aware of it. It is to encourage discussions in the class, improve upon the communication skills of the students, and make them think basically. This exercise can be carried out. Another thing is treasure hunt, which I would like to again share an experience. Uh, there is an exhibition which is organized every year in the month of September, October in the NSE grounds at Goregaon. Now, in 2019, when I taught robotics and I had visited this exhibition on a working day, I found that out of the 4 halls that were there, 3 of the halls were dedicated to robotics and IoT. And I really wanted my students to go and visit some of the stalls which had really good information related to the subject robotics, which they had in 7th semester. So, students, of course, entry is allowed only on Saturdays. So, weekdays, I and my colleague had visited and we identified at least those stalls because there were 400, 500 stalls, and it was not typically feasible to visit all. So the main stalls which we wanted the students to visit, we created a treasure hunt out of it. And then the students were given this the treasure hunt, in the initial discussion over it, and then they were asked to visit it on a Saturday. And they had to, when they visit a particular stall, they had to click their photograph along present at that stall, and also get a pamphlet of the product that was a part of the treasure and finding. So that was a really fun activity, and yeah, it was a really fun activity, and the students really enjoyed, and my purpose was served. At least they could visit the stalls where I wanted them to visit. Right. So this was one idea which I had implemented. Maybe we can have some variations in this in order to suit to the subject that we are teaching. Next is use of smart boards. So these are quite interactive tools that are available. Like it gives us feasibility of having pictures and whatnot in this in the classroom setting, right? So this is, I would not discuss much on it. If it requires some specific equipments, but I'm sure nowadays almost all colleges have some of the classrooms which have smart board in it. So next we come to virtual lab. So some of our experiments could be conducted using virtual lab. So many IITs and other institutions have come up with virtual lab. So students could be given some assignment, laboratory assignments to be worked out using virtual lab. So it gives us a change to the students, creates curiosity among them. And another thing which was very, many colleges came up in the pandemic situation was virtual field trip. So instead of having actual trip, the students taking students to the industry, which is actually not much feasible also always. So what we had done is one of Vasai being an industrial area, there is a company which manufactures data loggers controllers. So various type of controllers they manufacture. So electronics and electrical components, what they learn in their syllabus are all they'll be able to see there if they personally visit. But in the pandemic situation, that was not possible. So one of my colleague visited the industry and had a video recording from that place, a live video from that place. And the rest of the students and including me, we were able to see the each and every part where the manufacturing takes place, where the soldering takes place, where the quality check takes place, what the different divisions are, where's the programming division. So all this industry setup we could see it virtually. So this is also a good idea where we not, much efforts are not required. Virtual trip, then we come to what? W for WhatsApp. So WhatsApp quiz was another thing that we had worked out for one of the subject. Questions were posed on the WhatsApp. Students had to respond in the class group, and one who gives the maximum answer was declared as a winner. Right? So this is one thing that we could have sometime. Next is exchanging roles. I did not find anything from letter X, so I said let me say exchanging roles. Students and teacher could exchange a role, of course not entire thing, but a small part of your today's of your one of your classes could be assigned to a student, has a good understanding about it, and the student could take up that short portion in the class. So this is how a small part of the session could be conducted by the student, wherein your role and the student role get exchanged. And now we come to why, that is YouTube videos. So one is either you could create videos of your own, have your YouTube channels, which I'm very sure in the pandemic situation many of us have created and added more content to our already existing YouTube channels. We can, there's no harm sharing videos from others, developed by others, but when we recommend to the students, that has to be viewed properly by us, properly chosen, and then we have to recommend to the students. So YouTube channel and videos. And last alphabet is just 2-3 minutes more. Last alphabet is, come on, is the class live? Yeah, is Z, and Z is Z to A approach. Z to A approach is I discuss the application first and then the concept. In a usual class, we discuss about the concepts first and then we come to a conclusion. And in the Z to A approach, we start with the end result. That is, we discuss about the applications and then we come to a conclusion. Then we come to the concepts. So now with this, I complete the A to Z of creativity and innovation. I hope you could get something out of it. Now, I'm not going to leave you just 1 minute, and guess what I'm going to take is a, a paper, a paper from you. Yeah, and that paper is, you have to answer either of these. So what is that you like the best in this session? And if you have nothing to say about it, then you have to answer about what should have been included in the session so as to make it more interesting. So I request everyone to please answer either of the questions. The first question is, what did you like the most in the session? Or if you don't have an answer for this, if there's nothing nice in it, then you could answer what could have made this session more interesting. Come on, let us take this 1 minute paper. I want you to answer it in this format. What is the best thing that you liked in the session? Or if not that, what is that should have been improved in the session? Come on, please answer it as a 1 minute paper. Okay, Kalavati ma'am says she liked the library session. Yes. Storytelling. Yes. You could answer to, if not first one, you could even answer to the second one. What should have been done in the session so as to make it the way it was presented from A to Z would help you to recall, and further you could have groups among yourself to make a more exhaustive list. And one more thing, just last, I would like to add is that all things that we've discussed today may not be applicable in all situations. We have to be wise enough to choose one amongst them to suit to a particular concept that we are teaching. So जबरदस्ती सब कुछ घुसाना भी नहीं है, और at the same time कहाँ ना कहाँ ये variations लाना है, so that there is more creativity, more excitement in our teaching and learning. ठीक है? Okay, with this, I would again want to thank the IEEE section and Thadumal College, I'm so sorry, Thakur College, for giving me an opportunity for sharing the session. Thank you so much. If there are any questions we could take, someone was asking about the simulation tool. So actually, it would vary from subject to subject. So we have to find out our own on our own what tool we could use, and for one topic also there could be many tools, so that we could use and come to a conclusion which we find good. Yeah, thank you for all the appreciations that are put up in the chat. Thank you so much.
Madam, I have just one query
Sure.
related to the simulation only. I was like going through the open source softwares, like a replacement for the paid version. But then whatever I was requiring for, like the graphs, Bode plots and all. So I was getting, so can you just tell your journey like in a, like, so that I'll be able to search in a better manner?
Ma'am, I've used with respect to MATLAB, I've used Scilab and MATLAB. And
So,
what particularly experience I have done is when you teach this filters. So what I have done sometime when I've taught DSP is, whatever as a response of the filter you implement, whatever is a filter you implement it using MATLAB and show the response to the students. Then there is also this effect of poles and zeros. So in MATLAB, this kind of simulation is available, where you shift the poles and zeros, and you correspondingly to that you see how the position of the root locus is changing. So this kind of simulation I have used sometimes in my class. But still, I honestly say that I'm not in a position to say which one is the best.
so MATLAB, you're talking about the substitution for MATLAB, no? Like that.
Scilab is a substitution for, it is a freeware for in place of MATLAB, but I'm not sure if all features are available. But what I have used in past is MATLAB. When I have taught to show the simulations, I've used MATLAB to show the simulations in the class. Yeah.
Madam, very nice and very excellent session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Sorry, I have exceeded the time by 15 minutes.
No, it's okay, ma'am. All were so engrossed in your session that nobody noticed about time. Thank you so much for this such a nice session. And any other questions from participants? Okay, so I guess we can end the session here. Thank you, ma'am, first of all, for accepting our invitation. And secondly, it was such a structured presentation and all informative things. Everybody liked it. Thank you so much for this session.
Thank you. Thank you. It's
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Thank you.
Now for all participants, we will start immediately the second session. We'll take only 5 minutes break and we'll start with the session. In 5 minutes, we will start. Sheetal ma'am, is it okay? We will start in 5 minutes?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So exact at 11:50, we will start the session.